in one of the wildest, weirdest, wackiest Sunday night football victories you will ever see on your television screens. Late into the night, good morning football going into a Monday. It's already Victory Monday as the Cowboys win it 20-17, the final score. This is the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper. We've got Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton here. I'm Kyle Yeomans. This is the wildest game I think I've covered. I've been here for 5 seasons covering the Dallas Cowboys. I started with you, Nate. You've been around a whole lot longer than both of us. But with all that being said, the fact that Dallas, without Micah Parsons, without DeMarcus Lawrence, without Brandon Cooks, you lose your top 2 draft picks from April. You lose, of course, Kalen Carson, who was another huge piece of your rookie class. All of these things go wrong. You turn it over 2 times in the red zone, 3 times total. And you still find a way to win. 4 times total.
Yeah, it was really 4 times. So it was 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and then a blocked field goal. Right?
That's true. Okay, so the blocked field goal throwing in there too.
That's 4 turnovers when you look at that.
Either way, 20-17, you beat the 3-1 Steelers. Mike McCarthy goes back home, gets a win in Pittsburgh. I mean, where do you want to start with this one? I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. I mean, we just touched on it, right? You talk about the 4 turnovers, right? There's not going to show up that way in the stat book, but that's how we look at it, okay? You had 2 interceptions, you had a fumble, and then you had a blocked field goal. Those are things that you guys just can't do if you want to try to win ball games. But 2 things happened that needed to happen, as we talked about in the pregame show, if you wanted to win a ball game. You needed a second receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb to step up in a major way. You got that out of Tolbert, right? He stepped up in a major way. Tolbert had what? He had 7 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown, okay, to seal the game. And then you needed to sustain a running game to help Dak out, and you were able to do that, okay? You had Rico Dowdle step up in a major way, and Rico had 87 yards after 20 carries on the ground. So you had 2 of the things that you needed to take place that happened tonight. You had a number of injuries that you overcome as well. This is a major win for them. Sometimes you got to get a little bubble sparks and get a little ugly. But either way, it stays as a W.
You know, you get 32 minutes of time of possession. We needed to do that, along with how Rico Dowdle did things. We rushed the ball 31 times for 3.5 yards. That don't matter. We got over 100 yards rushing. We were physical. We played hard. We played through the mistakes. We kept going. It just amazes me sometimes what a steady running game can settle you down. After every major turnover, every major blunder, Coach McCarthy came back, got Rico Dowdle going. I think we just found our running back, fellas.
Oh, man. The fact that, and all of those things I mentioned, I didn't even mention the 90-minute rain delay. I know I said it was late, but the fact that you got out there, went through your whole pregame progression, had that cut off about 5 minutes before kickoff, and then you work right back into the game. And the fact that it turned out the way that it did is unbelievable. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. You said how it went from the offensive side. Rico Dowdle, he established the run. His stat line reads 20 carries, 87 yards. Didn't have the rushing touchdown, but he did have the receiving touchdown. How big was it for him and for Jalen Tolbert to step up the way that they did, and for Dallas to just kind of piece it together on offense with a banged-up offensive line?
It was huge. We talked about the running game. We didn't care where it came from, right? But the fact that Rico Dowdle was able to be in there and actually get a good body of work. It's been a merry-go-round in terms of these running backs in that room. And one thing that I know Big Nate is always an advocate of is giving it to one person and letting him get 15-plus carries. It's hard to get your mojo going. Talking about mojo moments, it's hard to get your mojo going when you keep getting rotated out of the lineup, okay? You need to get in there and get sustained. You need to get used to the ebbs and flows of the game, and then you can start seeing the holes and then take advantage of the opportunities. Rico was not only that on the ground game, but obviously he scored a big touchdown in the passing game as well. So I think today he proved and made his case to why he should be the starter and why he should be the guy going forward in this season.
Tolbert, 7 receptions for 87 yards, a touchdown, the game-winning touchdown. We found that guy, you know. So with Cooks being out, we feel a little bit more easier with throwing the ball to him. You know what, fellas? Dak still threw this ball to about 8 guys during this game. So CeeDee Lamb is our guy, but for Dak to be able to spread the ball, especially after the 2 red zone mishaps, that was positive. This team, along with Coach McCarthy, just keep finding a way to grind it out. This is the 5th game. Now, I'm not saying they've found their rhythm because that offensive line is still in shambles, but they know how to battle now. They know how to battle. They know how to handle adversity is what I'm talking about. When you play through adversity up at Heinz Field or whatever field is named, That was a great victory for me.
And you talk about battle tested. This is something that they had to overcome today. Right? They overcame injuries, they overcame 4 turnovers, and they overcame 11 penalties. Okay, these are all things. If you were to go out there into the game today and say, "Hey, you got 4 turnovers, 11 penalties, all right, and you guys are gonna have a lot of injuries." These guys, you would have never thought these guys would win the ball game. So they went in there, they took care of business, they overcame all those setbacks, and they still found a way to get a W. This goes a long way in terms of trying to get their season back on the rails.
Yeah, it's not finished product by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of things that are still to be fixed for this Cowboys football team, but give credit where credit is due. They gutted out a win. I said I was at a loss for words early on. That's the one word that keeps coming back to mind. Gutsy.
Good.
That is a gutsy win
Dig down
for the Cowboys, and they got it done. And it started with the defense. I know we just talked about the offensive side. The defense did their job, and they came and put more physicality and enforced more of that physicality and toughness than Pittsburgh did, which is a tough thing to do on the road.
Yeah, Dallas held Pittsburgh to almost half of the offensive yardage that Dallas had.
Huge.
I mean, Dallas had 445 yards in total offense. Pittsburgh only had 226. You talk about their third down efficiency. They held Pittsburgh to 25% conversion rate, and which is huge, right? It was something we talked about in the pregame show about how Pittsburgh does a really good job of sustaining drives. Well, not tonight, right? They were able to get those guys off the field. Now, I don't know what the heck got into Arthur Smith in terms of not wanting to run the ball, but I'm not going to complain about it because we're sitting here talking about a victory Monday right now. So Justin Fields, you wanted to put him in a position where he had to throw the ball. They chose that on their own, and it was not working for them.
To the tune of 130 yards. That's all Justin Fields threw for. And he was out of character. He threw it down the middle of the field, which we hadn't seen him do that a lot. A total of 233 yards. Third down, you said it was 25%. That's 3 of 12.
Yep.
When you're at home, it seemed like to me when I played at home, as Isaiah played at home, running the ball is what kept me stable. They got away from that tonight. I don't know what happened on the 26 carries when they averaged per game before this 35 carries.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Arthur.
That was a weird part of it, is it felt like Pittsburgh kind of shifted their identity. But isn't that what good football teams do to opponents? They take you out of what they want you to do initially, and they force you to do something else.
Yeah, I would say yes, but the thing is, when you think about Dallas's offense today, you say Dallas had an effective running game. I think we all would agree to that.
Yeah.
But when you look at the yards per attempt average, the Pittsburgh Steelers had the same average per attempt, 3.5 yards. Dallas had 3.5 yards. The only difference is their starting running back, I think, had 14 carries. Our starting running back had 20 carries. So one team committed to the run, the other team did not, but their average was exactly the same. So to Nate's point, the effectiveness was there, but for whatever reason, whatever they saw on film, they got out of it and they tried to put it in the hands of Justin Fields, and I think that was an error on their behalf.
Not going back to the defense, but I have to. All game long, you talked about how their corners
playing off,
giving 8 and 9 yards. So when Dak looked out there, he saw it's something like a bubble screen.
Free money.
Just free money. So they played a little bit different. I don't know what they saw in our film versus Dallas to make them do that, but you talked all week. Hey, man, I will put a corner on top of CeeDee Lamb, a safety, and make everybody else beat me. But you know what? They played everybody across the board 8, 9 yards off the ball, and it didn't matter.
It really was. It was a wild win, and it was one that wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty, and that's the second week in a row you can say it.
Hey.
20 points, you get it done, and you did it on the road twice. Cowboys are now 3-2 in the 2024 season. They're back above 500, and that's a good thing because they're heading into a pretty tough stretch. The Detroit Lions await next week, then a bye, then the 49ers coming up following the bye week. Things starting to ramp up in 2024. Here's your final stats presented by Miller Lite. We've got Cowboys game night. Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott to the podium. We'll talk about the analysis and highlights and a little bit more in depth after the 20-17 Cowboys win over the Steelers in Week 5. That's it for the first word presented by Dr. Pepper.